Good evening, folks. Carl Munson here, talking to you through a portal, either look or a porthole or a portal, whichever way you look at it. Good evening to the Expats Portugal community. I've had a camera failure of some sort. Don't quite know what's going on, but we're okay. As long as I can still communicate with everybody, at least through voice, I'm delighted to be just hanging on in there. And my colleagues, I'm sure, will help me out from the Fresh Air team, formerly the Air team, now the Fresh Air team, as we collaborate on this Get Out and Grow project. Anna Todd in Devon and John Agate in Devon. How are you guys this evening?
Good, thank you. Just about keeping warm. It's a bit chilly here in Devon, but yeah, already had one little bit of snow, but it's just about keeping on in there and keeping busy in these interesting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Devon in the UK, of course. Sorry, it might be that some of our American viewers may not be able to locate Devon, although I'm sure there are Devons in the UK as well. John Agate, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Quite tired. Just tired dealing with these bizarre times we're in.
Yes.
It's just like, I don't know, just all sorts going on, isn't there? But anyway.
You're hanging on in there. And do you guys think that we're onto something here, having a Get Out and Grow project to encourage people, even though they're locked down, even though they might be housebound for all sorts of reasons, to encourage them to roll out a little bit into the garden or maybe onto the balcony and grow some fresh food, get a bit of fresh air?
I think so, yes. I think sort of knowing that gardens are easy to just get out into and you can get a bit of fresh air literally on your doorstep. It's I think I can see it going in a good direction.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, John?
Yeah, I think so, because I think it's good both like physical health and mental health, because obviously exercise and just getting outdoors is all supposed to be good for physical. Well, we know exercise is good for physical health, but there seems to be increasing evidence that it's good for mental health as well. So I think, yeah, it seems to be, probably a good thing that we're doing.
This is a project for everybody. So as I said in the earlier sleeve notes of the show, for the seasoned gardeners, please cheerlead the newbies. And for the newbies, please be supported and encouraged. And we've got a few learning units to help you. The first was really, the sort of orientation and the commitment to get going and getting outside and growing a bit. Tonight, we're going to look at health and safety after we've done a Q&A so that we can get some like a better structure together in our learning unit so that people feel safe and supported when they are going out and gardening. But first of all, he was very popular last week. He is Lee McGrady. He's done a couple of videos for us since then, and we're going to bring him on now because he's going to be talking about picking seeds and planning and planting, which is where we're at in these next couple of weeks. Look, there he is in the man cave, potting shed, extension to the house. How are you doing, Lee?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, doing good.
And how's your part of Portugal this evening?
Dry but cold.
Dry but cold. It makes a difference to the weekend. Lovely video you posted up. You're working on that garden in the wonderful town of Sintra, right? The city of Sintra in Portugal. And you've got a really big project on your hands there. That looks amazing.
Beautiful place. Great garden. Yeah. Looking forward.
And does it overlook the magical palaces there? And the
no,
town?
we're just to the left of the palace. You can just see the top of the castle.
Oh, beautiful.
But we're just hidden behind trees from the centre.
All right, fantastic. So there we go. Any questions for the gardener? He's proving himself to be our resident gardener, Lee McGrady, and obviously a quick plug for his business. He is a professional gardener and a real great help to us so far. Hoping he's going to come back. Obviously, it's easier when the evenings are a bit wet, cold, and dark. But this time in 6 months, you're going to still be outside, aren't you, Lee?
Oh yeah. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and tell us about your business. How, if people are in Portugal, where are you in Portugal, and how can you be contacted?
Well, I work around the Costa Caparica area and Lisbon Centre up to the top of Sintra.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Quite a big area.
What a patch.
And I don't have the business number with me. I'll give it you next week. It's not.
Oh, you're on Facebook, aren't you? So if people want to track you down, or you'll be popping up on videos in the Happy Homesteaders group as well. So Lee is traceable there. If you want to talk to him or hire him, there he is on YouTube and on Facebook. So Lee, picking seeds, planning. I think that the gist of this is that you want to plan so that you don't grow too much or too little or things to get out of hand. Strategy.
Yeah, it's all about hitting the ground running, as they say. I know personally from experience, you can start too many seeds and not have the space then to get them out into the garden, and you're stuck with seedlings coming out of your ears. So, I mean, the main part is working out where you're going to put everything and what sort of space you've got. When you start going seeds in seed trays, it can get quite expensive. So if you know you only need, say, 20 tomato plants, if you're lucky, you need to be able to judge across your allotment, across your plot, the space that you need. Okay.
And of course, we were talking last week, weren't we, about, you gave us a really good tip last week, grow what you eat. Stick to the things. Yeah, stick to the things that you would ordinarily buy. Anna and John, any thoughts? I know, John, you might still be meditating on what you're going to be growing and thinking about for your garden. Yeah. Anna posted up 1 or 2 pictures. You've been out on your plot, Anna. What have you been up to in this last week?
I've been working on so mostly weeding, because I've got a little area which we've tidied up outside the back, and just use it as a bit of a sort of storage area. And haven't got much in the way of plants at the moment, but yeah, I've just been sort of working on weeding and hopefully getting the grass under control at some stage, and just keeping it in working order, because I know the spring is when the gardening season starts, so winter's always that sort of getting the garden ready kind of time.
All right, so, fantastic. And the pictures you've seen, and we encourage everybody to do this. Please share pictures, videos of your gardening plot, with questions that you've got, or what you want to proudly share with the rest of the community. I think it's really encouraging. Have you found that, Lee? I mean, it's nice to look at other people's gardens.
Oh, it's my hobby. I'm always being nosy, always looking over garden walls, always see what other people are doing. Oh yeah, really enjoy it.
Yeah. And John, did you anything arising from you from last week?
I can't think, actually. I not yet. No, I'll have to keep thinking, but not yet that I've thought of.
Still a bit cold and wet, isn't it? Maybe you're a bit like a cat among gardeners.
Maybe I am.
Take one look at the outside when the door's open, stand on a doorstep and think, no, I'm going back inside for a minute. But that should improve. And cats can sit there for quite some time, can't they, before they decide they're not going out at all. Anna's nodding, and knowing all about cats. So, Lee, if you will, can you talk us through this process a little bit more of choosing seeds, planting seeds, getting that part of the strategy right before things start warming up and before we can really start enjoying being in the garden?
Yeah, of course. As I said last week, I would always recommend people select the things they buy most, the top 5 things on your shopping list. The supermarkets here in Portugal are already selling packs of seeds, so you can start to stock up on your seeds. I intend to start my seedlings in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I have the little plastic greenhouse, so I'll be starting mine in there. I've already been out today and selected areas of where things are going to go. I'm working out in my own head how much of which plant I need to grow, and where they're going to be positioned in the garden. It's just basic good housekeeping. It's preparing and thinking about how many seeds I need to start, so I'm not wasting seeds. I'm not overbuying on seeds and compost trays. I always keep a diary as well, which I recommend everybody does. Keep a diary of when you've bought things, when you started the seeds. Make little notes in it throughout the year. It really comes in useful for next year when you want to reposition your plots and grow the different vegetables in different places. So you have a fixed memory, have something in paper of what day you started and what day that you harvested. It's interesting, but it comes in useful in the long run.
Sounds like there's a bit of a blog possibility in there as well, and it can be shared again, can't it? If you do it on Google Mail or something, not Google, or G-Docs or something like that, and have a bit of a blog or a digital diary. And you can search, can't you? If you do it digitally, you can search for things in there as well.
I suppose so.
Yeah, a little bit more. Sorry, Lee, go on.
I'm not that computer savvy. I'm not that digitally savvy. Everything I do is still in paper. I still have the old paper diary.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so you've actually literally bought a diary, and you are using that diary as a gardening diary journal. Yeah.
And I recommend everyone does it. It's good to look back on it. It's good for hits and tips. If something didn't do so well and maybe need another week or two in the greenhouse next year, you can look back and
and your year-on-year comparison there, haven't you? Those people who are tuned in, do ask questions of Lee. He's here for that reason, and we'll do our best as the AiR team, the Fresh Air team now, and the Happy Homesteaders to help you out as best we can. Jacqueline, I think will be Donna Jacqueline, who's been on with us on the Fresh Air team, is trying to tune in. So it might be that people are having a little bit of a problem joining us tonight, but this, of course, will go into the watch again in our YouTube library. So if you see anything on there, do ask a question in there, and we'll get back to you. Or join our Get Out and Grow group on Facebook, because that's where it's all happening as well. Talking of diaries, the time of year, etc. Lee. What's safe to grow right now? Because of course, for the real newbies, you can't just grow anything you want at any time of year, can you? It's got to be in its right growing season. So what's appropriate right now for Portugal and for England, for example?
Here in Portugal, I'm guessing the worst of the frost has gone. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Frost. The temperature, nighttime temperature, is the thing to look at. Once the nighttime temperature is staying in double figures, then it's time to start making a move. So I say I'm still going to leave it another 2 weeks, another good 2 weeks before I start my seedlings. But I'm referring to my diary because I've been making a bit of a list today. I'm going to start my beans and peas. I'm going to restart doing those again. My tomatoes are going to go in to seed trays. I'm going to start looking at some asparagus. I've not grown it here in Portugal before, so that's something I'm going to start looking for. That's the right time of year is now for the asparagus, if I can find any.
Terrific.
And my corn. I'm going to start my corn off.
Okay.
So that's all within the next two weeks. So there's a good spread. And here in Portugal, we're quite lucky that we can start that a little bit earlier. Yeah. And the great thing is if you do have a little greenhouse, like I have, you can start early and just forget about them and leave them. They'll come up in their own good time. As long as you don't get hit hard by the frost and the slugs and the snails stay away, then you can just leave them and let them do their own thing.
Yes.
So,
well, a couple of things come to mind there, and John and Anna, do jump in if you've got any questions. But corn is a really nice thing to grow, isn't it, for a new gardener, because it really shows itself. And if you're lucky, and it goes to full on harvest, it is the most wonderful thing to cut them up. It reminds me of my Uncle Raymond as a kid who used to grow sweet corn because I loved it. And to boil up your own sweet corn and have it with butter, salt and black pepper on from your own garden is one of those fantastic joys, isn't it?
Well, the first of our sweet corn last year were barbecued, and it was fantastic.
Ooh, that sounds good.
The barbecue.
Okay.
So and the corn plot was just behind the outdoor kitchen, so it came straight off the plant, round the corner, washed, barbecued. 2 minutes. Fantastic.
Very good. Yeah, and that sounds really wonderful. So maybe we can focus a little bit on growing sweet corn. It will be a bit later for the UK, for example. Oh
yes, yeah. It'll be end of April before you can start the sweet corns really in the UK, or mid-April.
Okay.
Well, they're very quick growing, so.
Oh, and so so for the newbie and then someone who might be a little bit impatient for kids or whatever, it might be nice to grow corn because it does grow quickly.
Yes, yeah. It shows itself really quickly. Once it gets up to a tall stem, then you have to be patient and let it develop into a cob.
Yeah.
But it shows quickly. It shoots up quickly.
Right. The other thing that you mentioned, I think you were talking about slugs and snails. Anna will know all about this from the garden where on the plot where we knew each other from originally. In any garden, really, right? Slugs and snails are always going to be a challenge. What do you do, Lee? I mean, this might be a segment that we lift out for our YouTube channel. The perennial problem of dealing with that kind of slimy pest. What do you do? Do you nuke them, or or are you more of a natural biological approach?
I'm not a big nuker of slugs and snails. It's not my thing. I like to go out at night with a headlight and find them crossing the footpaths. If you find a good damp night, you'll find them. Walk around with a head torch, you'll find a bag full. But if I can, I got this because I thought it might come up. Nemo slug. I don't know if you can see this on my.
Oh yeah,
on my telephone.
Yeah, okay.
Available on Amazon. It's a powder that you mix in with your watering can, and it's a biological control for slugs and snails. Well worth the money. Yeah.
Hold on, just hold it up again, mate, because I'm going to zoom in on you again. These are nematodes, aren't they? Is that what that stands for? Where it's a pest that attracts the slug and the snail?
Yeah. It sits in the ground for 6 to 8 weeks. It says on the packaging. Yeah. I've used it times. It's well worth the money. Yeah, and it's no environmental impact on your birds and hedgehogs and newts and what else.
Yes, of course, because so many things are eating the slugs and the snails. You don't want to be poisoning them, do you, and putting that into the ecosystem. Fantastic. And it's already got a thumbs up here. Nematodes work a treat for slugs. Who is that? Please let us know who you are. Thank you for that comment as well. And Jacqueline is here. She managed to join us. Find someone who eats the snails. My neighbour loves them. That's what I was going to say. I thought you were collecting a big bag of them, Lee, so you could just chuck them in the wok with a bit of garlic and a bit of olive oil, and they'll go nicely with your sweet.
No, I'll leave that for you. I'll save you some. I'll post some food for you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. I would like to grow asparagus. So pushing it a bit more with the asparagus there, which you fancy growing this year. Jacqueline says, I would like to grow asparagus. So if anyone knows of a source of plants, I would like to know. I think you would as well, wouldn't you?
Yes, me too. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's available yet with the time of year, or I'm just not looking the right places. But I've not seen any. I didn't see any last year either. So and let's fingers crossed.
Yeah, and am I right? So anyone who's got a plant source for asparagus, let us know for Jacqueline and for Lee. But don't they once they get rooted in your garden, don't they just keep coming? A bit like we were talking about sweet potatoes last week, and we've got a great video from you about how to start sweet potatoes off on the YouTube channel. But once asparagus is established in your garden, it can take over, can't it?
Well, it doesn't take over if you control it and you eat it. You purchase what they call a crown of it's a small plant with a long root on it, and you plant that in a little trough. Yeah, and then you can control. You can keep it trimmed. You can keep it cut and harvest it regular. But if I do plant a crown this year, it won't be until next year till I can harvest it. You're meant to leave it for a year to settle.
Yes, that's the other thing. So you do have to be a bit more patient, don't you, with the asparagus?
But once you've got it, it's growing well, and it should grow quite well here in the sandy soil that I have. So should be another bonus.
You see, this is all the intel I love that you slip into the conversation there. So it does like a sandy soil, does it?
Yeah, it likes a well-free drain in sandy soil. One of the best places to find it in the UK is in the sand dunes. You can find the wild asparagus in sand dunes all along the coast of the UK. If you keep your eye out, you know what you're looking for.
That sounds nice, doesn't it? Bit of asparagus fried up with a bit of butter, some samphire on there from the same dunes, maybe. Sounds beautiful. That's within in any normal time, not within fairly easy reach of you guys, isn't it? In Devon to get to the coast and do a little bit of foraging in the dunes there. Amazing, right? So it's me, the Facebook user Penny of the Boudoir Babes, new band. You might not have heard their music yet, but keep an eye on them. The Boudoir Babes, good name. Jacqueline, it does well in a raised bed by itself. Says Jacqueline. Hope you're well, Jacqueline. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Hope everything's sorted out with your internet connection and that we're ready to roll soon. health and safety in the garden is the topic we're looking at tonight. So do keep those questions coming in. We are creating little learning units. This is for the newbies in the Get Out and Grow group. We're looking to support and encourage people who might not have been in the garden before, who might have disabilities or additional needs, special needs, and so on. And we want to make sure you're adequately supported, so you get you feel confident basically getting in the garden. And this, of course, will be something everyone here knows about. John's been through this at a horticultural project. Anna will have as well, and Lee, I'm sure, has maybe stepped on a rake in his time, as I have done. It's painful if it catches you in the wrong place, I have to tell you. It's a classic gardening injury, and it's a bit of it can be a dangerous place, the garden. So let's talk our way through this, and I'll make a few notes, and I'll make sure that the learning unit is updated on the Facebook group. But first things first, I mean, we're sat in the house thinking about going outside. What are the first considerations? John and Anna, do you want to start with this, and then I'm sure Lee will pick it up as well as we talk.
I guess first off, I would say you probably should tell people where that you're going out to the garden, and maybe roughly how long you expect to be. So then, if they're then if they've got a set time, if say it's like, I don't know, 11:30 on a Sunday or something, and you say I'm going to be about 45 minutes to an hour, and you're not back, and it's I don't know, 20 to 12 or something like that, then they know to go and look for you, rather than thinking, oh, it's just Mike, or oh, it's just Amy's let's let time run away with her or him or whatever. So that's one thing. I did actually post in the group, I think. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been Tuesday or somewhere, maybe Wednesday. But I posted about saying that people, it's probably a good idea is when cutting the grass is to never ever, if you have an electric lawnmower, never ever cut the grass when it's wet, or never ever cut the grass in the rain. Might sound obvious, but people, I'll just say that. Second of all, adding on to that, always never ever run over the wire with the lawnmower for the same reasons. Yes. And I think it was Penny that commented on my post, actually, don't walk with bare feet in long grass, because of there's apparently in Portugal there's lots of scratchy plants or something. But what also occurred to me was snakes, actually, as well.
Absolutely, well said.
So I don't know what tips you have, Anna.
John, thank you for those. That's a great start.
I suppose the main one, I guess, would be just I know obviously, particularly here in Devon, the weather can be a bit on the unpredictable side. But I was going to say, make sure you know what the weather's doing, because the last thing you want to be doing is strimming and then it starts raining, because that's not the best combination with power cables and that sort of thing. But I think as far as beginner gardeners are concerned, I suppose one thing which is always best to get used to is some plants can look very similar to others. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but some plants can look quite similar to other plants. So you can get plants which are okay and some which aren't, but they look very, very similar. So do keep an eye on those, and I suppose for the more experienced gardeners, keep checking the gardening tools. So for example, like with strimmers and things, you want to make sure there aren't any little damages in the cable or anything. So that's one thing you do need to watch out for, and particularly if you have garden ponds and anything like that, you do want to keep the cables well away from water, or ideally you can make sure someone's out with you just to hang on to any excess cables, because I know quite often if you're sort of busy sort of hedge trimming or whatever, the cables can go all over the place, and yeah, that's probably one of the main ones to look out for.
Really good stuff. That's
I'll
really good.
Some more.
No, that's really great, because the first thing first is to tell people you're going out, and you know, when you might be back. You might want to pack your mobile, mightn't you? Take your mobile phone with you so you can be contacted, but let people know where you're going. Don't just disappear out in the garden on a recce without telling anyone where you're off to. This thing about cables and power tools, Penny, buy your husband rechargeable garden tools with no electric wires to cut through. So that deals with that problem of cables, which you made very well, both of you. Thank you for that. Yes. Appropriate clothing. Maybe we'll come back to that and ask Lee about that, because bare feet, not going to be ideal, especially in Portugal with snakes and spiders to contend with as well. And you know, it's probably not very safe gardening in bare feet, is it? You want to be kicking back at the end of the day in bare feet, maybe around a pool or whatever, but not doing your actual gardening. Certainly not lawn mowing in bare feet. Good heavens, no, or trimming or anything crazy like that. What was the other really good thing? Go on, John.
And indeed, on the subject of lawnmower, of course, I don't have one of these, but if you do have a big enough garden and you have one of those sit-on lawnmowers, then obviously, again, this sounds kind of obvious, but
no drinking.
Yes, that no drinking. But also, what I was going, but yeah, that's a good point. Actually, don't drink alcohol. But what I was going to say was don't go too fast, because like same with a car, and you don't want to crash or turn it over, obviously, which is a type of crash. But I was also going to say, because we were talking about snakes and spiders in Portugal, you were just saying about that, weren't you, Carl? But don't just randomly, again, obvious sounding, but people do strange things. Don't stick your hand straight into a compost heap, because I think of this because I suddenly remembered I heard this is a few years back actually on the news. We had reports of some sort of black widow spider in the UK or something, and this man had seen this spider nest in his shed or outbuilding or something, and apparently for some bizarre reason, according to this report on the radio, had just stuck his hand straight into this thing that he didn't know what it was. It's like, why?
Dude, yeah.
Why?
Maybe getting a bit carried away. So yeah, you got to take a breather and check before you do anything rash like that. But that's another good shout, John. Wear gloves, and obviously from the point of view of the animals and creatures as well, you don't want to be sticking your shovel or your fork straight into the compost heap. There might be creatures in there, might be hedgehogs or whatever, so be careful. Don't be too crazy in the garden. There's all sorts of reasons there from John why not to go at it gung-ho in the garden. And Anna, you made a really good point about don't eat anything unless you know absolutely what it is. And there is, of course, that I forget the name of it now, but it looks like parsley or celery, and it's a very poisonous plant that's going to be potentially lethal. So you do have to. Do you remember that, Hannah's? Do you remember what it was called, Hannah? Anna, because I don't.
I'm trying to remember. I know. I do remember there were some plants. So I don't know if I know particularly the ones that we had to watch out for. Though I'm not terribly familiar with them. I remember vetch was one of them. Yeah. I do remember there was another one because it used to grow absolutely everywhere, and it actually needed protective clothing to get in the removal process. I'm just trying to.
That's the hemlock, I think.
Hemlock, yeah.
Hemlock, yeah.
Not worked with that one before, but yeah, and of course nettles. Not too much of a problem, but obviously they can sting. So you might want to. Yes, get used to recognizing dock leaves because they really help with stings, and yeah, and as we say, do make sure you're wearing like long sleeves and sort of tough sort of gardening trousers, because if you do get stung or anything like that, it can be a little bit on the uncomfortable side. So yes, so if you're confident enough to wear shorts and t-shirts when you're gardening, go for it. But ideally, do wear the right clothing, because you never quite know what you're going to expect when you're out and about, really.
Yeah, not this time of year. So we have a question from TP Larson. We'll come back to that after we've heard Lee's insight into health and safety, because this man uses chainsaws. He is at the toughest end, at the most dangerous end of gardening, and I think he'll have a thing or two to say about health and safety. Lee, I think that's been some pretty good pointers so far.
Oh, fantastic. Footwear, extremely important.
Yeah.
Always wear sensitive shoes. Always. I've heard of so many people losing toes or stabbing themselves.
Okay.
So, yeah. The other thing is gloves.
Yeah.
I wear gloves every day, no matter what the weather.
Okay.
I always buy the best gloves I can afford, because they come in use. They can be a lifesaver.
Right.
You can pick up the wrong thing. You can touch the wrong thing. Always wear gloves. Machine safety, extremely important. Keeping on top of your machine, checking it regularly, make sure everything's in good working order. A good sharp blade will save you many repair bills as well. Not only is it safer, it also helps with the longevity of your machine. So, machines checked, keep them greased. If you're using electrical equipment, I always recommend that you put the cable over your shoulder. It keeps it off the floor, and it stops you from running over it with a lawnmower. It stops you from catching it with extras. So get the cable, throw it over your shoulder, and work that way.
Yeah.
What else? The plant identification. That's a good one as well. Because I've had people send me what they thought were onions, and they were actually daffodils.
You don't want to be eating them with liver, do you?
Oh, don't eat that.
Liver and daffodil.
So, plant identification is quite important as well. Yeah. So look what you're putting in, and even use little name tags on your lines.
Yes.
A little tag under your line with the date you planted it. So you can see the line and you can see what you've got in.
And if in doubt, don't eat it. Right? It's too dangerous, isn't it, to take a chance on thinking, oh, that'll be a nice herb.
It's not worth the risk. I've been invited several times to go mushroom picking, and I've never gone because mushrooms are so cheap, and the wild ones are so dangerous. So yeah, if you're unsure, compost it.
Give it a miss. Okay. All right. Interesting. And so that takes us to a question. Oh, actually, before we go to TP Larson's question, are there any flowers native to Portugal, or will any type do well? We can finish on that, because I suspect you know a thing or two about that, Lee. But yeah, that's really good advice about footwear. Steel toe caps, probably, to stop the fork going through the shoe and so on. Good.
Not always necessary, but something with a good sole, something nice and comfortable.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And the gloves, obviously. But the other thing is waterproof, isn't it? And you don't really want to be wearing jeans, ideally, in the garden. It's like going walking in jeans. Seasoned walkers and hikers don't wear jeans, because once they get damp, they're really horrible things to wear, aren't they? So maybe some breathable layers, waterproofs, and not sort of heavy things like denim. But maybe wool, good old-fashioned wool, with a little bit of rain resistance in it.
At the moment, I've got my grey work trousers on, which the legs zip off to become shorts. It's their second season, but there I can get damp and I can be dry in 10 minutes once the rain stops. But when I made the video, I had a full smock on, just to keep the rain off, because it was horrendous on Saturday morning. So staying dry and staying warm.
Stay dry. Yeah, don't sort of front it out. If you get wet and miserable, go indoors, get warm again. It's not worth becoming miserable in the garden, because you won't create nice associations with the gardening process. It's nice to be wrapped up and warm if you're going to be out in difficult conditions. All right, so on this matter of flowers, what are Portugal's native flowers? I mean, I've certainly seen a lot of nasturtiums here. The wisteria is an absolutely beautiful. The glycinias. There are certain things, jacarandas, that are real signature plants of Portugal. What's your experience of this, Lee?
Well, my favourite lilies have just started coming up now, just started to flower. I love the lilies here. The Montbretia does really well. It's a tall orange stem flower. The wisteria is amazing. Yeah. I've always been a fan of wisteria in England, but seeing the plants here, it's a different game. No, obviously the weather's better for it.
Yes.
And honeysuckle, the honeysuckles here do really well, and they're great for the bees.
Yes.
Great for the bees and the birds. So, there's lots, but each area I'm finding is very different from the north down to the south. We don't get the variation the same in England. Kind of what grows in London will kind of make it just about in Scotland. You can go further down to Cornwall and Devon where you're in a different climate. But here, what grows in the Algarve will not grow up in the north.
Yes.
So again, another tip is look in your neighbours' gardens when you're out and about, when you're doing your shopping. Have a nosy, see what they've got going well.
Yes, good plan.
No, it's true. It's true everywhere. The soil changes and the climate changes, the rainfall changes. So, if you're new to gardening, have a look at your neighbour's plot and see what they're growing. It will show you what does well.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And there's no harm in trying things, is there? Experimenting.
No, yeah. If it's something you really like, have a go at it. If it doesn't grow, you've not lost anything. Yeah.
And maybe
just a bit of time.
Yeah, and put the seeds into the seed bank or seed share or whatever, and see if someone else can make them grow. Joel's here from Portugal. I don't know if he's got green fingers. Go on, Lee.
Can I just get one thing in?
Of course.
I was amazed last year. I bought some wildflower seed from Aldi. Name dropping. It was on offer when I bought it. I didn't expect anything of it, and I had a fantastic show that ran for 8 months. And it was a simple wildflower seed just scattered on an empty bed. And I had all the birds were enjoying it, all the bees were loving it. And when the sunflowers finally came through and went to seed, well, I couldn't keep the birds away. So don't just select one plant, go for the mixes and see what you can do with the wildflower mixes.
Sounds beautiful.
Very cheap.
Love to see a photo of that. If you've still got a photo of your Aldi wildflower seeds for the Happy Homesteaders, that'd be great.
I have got some photographs, and I'll dig them out and share them.
Oh, yeah. Terrific. Okay. Noonie, I don't know if that's a question, or it sounds like a Latin name for a plant, or you're just trying to prank us there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Jacqueline, my wisteria took ages to get going, but it's magnificent now from a neighbour's cutting. So, yes, cuttings. We've got a few minutes left now tonight. We're talking originally before we did the bit of the health and safety stuff for our learning unit to encourage newbies out into the garden. But we were talking about this time of year, and Lee was saying, it's a good time to pick your seeds, think strategically rather than just getting all gung-ho in the garden and chucking a load of seeds in the ground or in seed trays and having too much. Because I think a lot of people do make that mistake, sort of overplant rather than underplant with seedlings. And then you're thinking, what do I do with all of these? And it's a waste of seed in a way. But what about cuttings? Is now the right time for cuttings as well, Lee, if you do take a nick of cutting from your neighbour's wisteria?
I'm not sure about wisteria here. I've seen it would be okay. Yeah, it should be. It's quite a hardy plant.
Right.
But it's a great time for hydrangea cuttings.
Hydrangeas.
I'm a big fan of the hydrangeas here. We had some lovely ones in England, but again, it's nothing compared to the ones I've seen here. So hydrangea cuttings dead easy to take. Pop them in a little bit of water for a few days. As soon as you see the roots coming out, get them in the ground. Easy. I'll do a video.
Oh,
there you go.
That's what we wanted. That's great news. All right, tremendous. So, yeah, why not have a go at cuttings as well? And again, don't be afraid to experiment. It's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get another bit of compost.
Yeah. Actually thinking about it now, I would leave the, not the hydrangeas, the wisteria. I'd leave that for a few weeks. Because I know for mine, it's quite dormant at the moment. There's not a lot of growth or movement in it. So I'd leave that for another month or so and just wait for the first green shoots to come on before you take the cuttings from the wisteria.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you're waiting for the energy of the plant to really get going. Yeah. Then that might
just wait for the sugars in the liquids to start moving within the plant, and it's always a good indicator of when you can get a good cutting.
Yeah, terrific. Oh, we did have a little bit of talk on in the group about pruning of trees, didn't we? And vines as well. I don't know if you found anything of note, Anna, that you wanted to share, or Lee, if you want to say anything about pruning, because Penny was interested in that, wasn't she? She had some espaliered fruit trees in Devon there.
I remember one thing about pruning as far as buds are concerned. I'm trying to think of an actual plant in particular. I think it's mostly berry plants that I'm thinking of, but I know when you're pruning them, it's best to cut just above the bud at an angle. But there's a little bit of a technique to this one, because ideally you want to be cutting at an angle. So if you imagine like the rainwater sort of hitting the like if this is the top of the stem, if the rain's hitting it there, if say it gets really cold and it freezes, it can cause the plant to die off. So if that or it might get too much water going in. So what you want to do is I'm trying to picture it in my head now, but ideally if you've got like a bud, you want to cut just above the bud and make sure it is at an angle. But if you imagine the water is going to hit the top of the branch at an angle, I'm trying to use my hands to demonstrate it, but it's not working. But basically, you want the water to run off the top of the stem away from the bud, technically, because if it gets too much water, it's not going to make it.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a sort of common sense you hear, and you can kind of commit it to memory, because it just makes sense in your mind, doesn't it? I'll certainly be incorporating that in my pruning strategy. So yeah, into the closing minutes. If you do have a question, just pop it in the comments. Anna, John, Lee, any closing comments? Anything you want to commit to doing in the garden this week?
I'm probably just going to sort of keep an eye on it, I think, and just sort of make sure the pond is clear, I think, because the last thing you want is a really sort of cloudy green coloured pond, because that's if you've got any wildlife in the pond, it's not going to help it very much. So do try and keep the ponds clear if you can, and just make most of the good weather, especially at the moment with it being a bit of a wetter season. So just go out and make the most of it, and warmer weather is on the way.
Yes, well said. Well said. Bit of pond cleaning. That's something we'll go to at some point. I'm sure that the importance of having a pond and getting a few frogs and toads in there, also good on the pest control, aren't they? John, anything you're thinking about for the week ahead?
Maybe possibly I might try and do a few photos of maybe some birds and animals and think. Well, birds are animals, but you know what I mean. And yeah, I'll try and do a few photos, I think. Maybe that's what I'll try and do. Yeah, mainly at the moment, and then sort of work forward from there in some way, shape or form in the future.
Top man. Yeah. Thank you very much. And Lee, to finish then with you. Week ahead.
Oh, in my personal garden, I've got the compost to turn over and get a bit of air into it. That's my next big job. And I've got a compost tumbler, which is now clean, and that needs to be put back into action. So maybe I'll do a video on stuff to compost as well this week.
Always good talking talking compost. Love it.
Compost.
Yeah. So, talking compost for the week ahead. Then in my garden, there are 2 sheep have arrived. And they are apparently they are like Russian dolls, because there are lambs within them sheep as well that will be born. I would have thought in springtime, not sure, but I was making them some fencing for them yesterday, and they're going to be mummy lambs soon, mummy sheep soon, and they're going to be lambs around. So an exciting time. Chickens are doing well. I'm loving how productive the chickens have been despite the cold weather and the rain. The chickens have been laying like crazy. R8 chickens. So I really enjoy working with the chickens. And one of my joys in the garden is making chippings. I've got a chipper that I bought from the other one, Lee, from the Lidl, not the Aldi. 140 euros, something like that. And anything up to about a 3/4 inch wide twig branch goes in there. But there's been a lot of pruning on the Kinta here. And so I've got loads of woody stuff to go into the chipper, and that goes down beautifully, where the chickens are, wherever there's a bit of a ball patch on the land or whatever. I love making the chippings and putting them down. It's a sort of meditative process. So I've got my hands full at this end as well.
Problem when you have a chipper is everything becomes chippable.
Yeah.
You start pruning unnecessarily.
You're right. And this is the thing about men and machines, isn't it? Sometimes men don't know when to stop, do they?
It's like a paper shredder.
Well, you go around finding
Yes.
paper. Ask your neighbours for paper. Know when to stop, have a tea break, and think: is this next bit of shredding absolutely necessary? All right, fantastic. We're getting a thanks, guys, from Penny there. Great job tonight. Thanks very much, Lee. Really appreciate you being with us whilst the evenings are a bit darker and colder. Great job, Anna. Great job, John. And sorry, my camera wasn't working tonight. We'll see what we can do about that before the morning. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And do tune in again next week with your week by week growing diary and getting out there and growing, as the project is called. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. Thank you very much indeed.